Cartoon characters don't die. It's just a rule, part of cartoon logic. I mean, just look at Homer. Yeah, pretty much immortal there. So when people do die in The Simpsons, it's safe to say that it comes as a surprise. Just like the one we saw in Mona Leaves
I've realized that the most important thing in my life is you.
That's right, Mona Simpson, aka the queen of deadbeat moms, returned for one last heart-to-heart before being whisked off to the great Springfield in the sky. Now, given what we do know about Mona, you know, how she's an absent mother to Homer, and probably the reason he's, well, Homer, one wouldn't normally call her death a tragedy, but somehow this episode turned her passing into the guttest of punches. And not in the usual Simpsons dope kind of way either. The episode kicks off at the mall with Maggie for once getting the VIP treatment at the toy store. Naturally, Bart takes his golden opportunity to torment Homer, and boy does he deliver.
Homer is a lard butt.
What did you say?
Homer is a big jerk.
Who told you these things about me?
Homer has booger breath.
It's a medical condition.
Okay, but can we talk about Bart knowing what boogers smell like, though? I feel like that's normal. I mean, they reside in your nose. After some toy store chaos, because you know Homer's not letting those jabs slide. The family heads home, but plot twist, the front door is open.
The door's open. I think someone broke in.
I'm ready for this.
And what does Homer do when he suspects a burglar? Well, if you guessed craft a makeshift weapon out of a concrete block and chain, then it's safe to say that you've been paying attention.
I hear noises coming from the kitchen.
Uh-oh, that's where the food sleeps.
Definitely wouldn't want to be that burglar right about now. Weapon in hand, because food is serious business, Homer storms the kitchen. Only no burglar.
Mom!
My aquarium!
Instead, he finds his long-lost mother, Mona, casually baking an apple pie.
Hello, Homer.
You're alive.
What's going on?
You go get ice cream.
Because nothing says, hey, I faked my death like a fresh pastry. They settle on the couch where Mona explains that she's done running and wants to settle down with the family for good. Sweet, right?
I can finally stop running and be your mom.
No thanks.
Except Homer's not buying it. And honestly, can you blame him? Years of disappearing acts have left Homer with abandonment issues big enough to fill the Springfield Gorge.
You left a hole in my heart that could never be filled. I filled it with food, but I'm never full.
I mean, that's as deep as I've ever heard Homer speak, and honestly, I couldn't help but feel sad when I heard that. Still, Mona keeps trying. She bonds with the kids, digs out Homer's childhood photos, and does her best to prove that she is here for good.
Wow, Dad was so cute as a baby. When did he lose his cuteness?
Oh, I have a picture of that.
And for a hot minute, she had me believing. But just when things seem to be too good to be true, well, tragedy strikes. That night, Homer, who's been struggling to get some shut-eye, realizes he's been too hard on Mona.
Oh, I feel terrible. My own mother reached out to me and I rejected her. I'm gonna make her a card.
It's probably gonna look awful, but hey, Hallmark doesn't have a sorry for calling you a deadbeat section. But when he heads downstairs to give it to her, he finds Mona sitting quietly by the fire. Too quietly. And that's when it hits him.
Are you asleep? Asleep with your eyes open? Mom? Mom?
The way he says mom the second time tears me up inside, man. Mona's funeral turns out to be as unconventional as her life.
Hello, Homer. If you are watching this right now, I am dead.
She leaves behind a will that is equal parts sentimental as it is wildly impractical. Bart gets a pocket knife, of course.
To my grandson, I leave my Swiss Army knife.
Marge gets a hemp purse, because why not?
Marge, I have a purse for you. It's woven out of nature's most amazing material, hemp.
And Lisa gets Mona's rebellious spirit, which, let's face it, she's had it since day one.
Dearest Lisa, I leave you my rebellious spirit.
And Homer, he gets a final mission. Scatter Mona's ashes at the top of a mountain at exactly 3 p.m. No pressure, right? Only it's Homer.
Okay, this is it. I will avenge you.
It's not really avenging her, Dad.
I'm really glad you corrected me. Really glad when they're corrected.
Whatever works for him, Lisa, whatever works. Surprisingly, Homer completes the task.
Goodbye, Mom. You're finally free.
But in true Mona fashion, her ashes end up sabotaging a missile launching device hidden inside the mountain. Because yes, even in death does Mona still fight the system.
System destroyed. Launch aborted.
And as it turns out, the lair belongs to Mr. Burns, who's planning to dump Springfield's nuclear waste into the Amazon rainforest, because why be regular evil when you can be eco-evil?
You monster! On another subject, next Thursday I have to leave work early. I assume that's cool.
Just look at Mr. Burns' face. Priceless. What follows feels straight out of a James Bond movie. Bart slips his pocket knife to Homer, who uses it to break free. Meanwhile, Marge, with Lisa's help, sets her hemp purse on fire, sending smoke billowing into the mountain to pacify the guard. And with the coast clear, Homer tears through the place like a frackin' wrecking ball. He actually knows how to make and use that weapon pretty well. Homer eventually escapes with a Union Jack parachute because reasons, and finally releases Mona's ashes into the air where they belong, or into the ground where they also belong. It's a bittersweet goodbye, but for once Homer gets some closure. Pretty touching episode, all things considered. And speaking of closure, or in this case, lack thereof, our next grieving character didn't exactly get the goodbye he craved. I mean, even Homer in the last one we talked about, but even more so here.
You made me miss the last precious moments of Bee's life. I'll never speak to you again. I have no son.
Yikes. In Old Money, Beatrice Simmons, Grandpa's sweet new flame, passes away while he's dragged off on one of Homer's misadventures. Yeah, leave it to our donut-loving oaf to ruin Grandpa's last chance at love.
Burst. Oh, no, Jasper. I know she died of a broken heart.
It all starts with the usual Simpson family Sunday outing. You know the drill. The kids are restless, Marge is polite, and Homer's Homer. After yet another boring outing, poor Grandpa gets hauled back to the retirement castle like unwanted luggage with a meal that's just a little too chewy for his old jaw.
Thanks for the beef jerky.
Bye.
Good, but...
Remind me to never get that old, or have a knucklehead son. Both things that I can completely control. In one car conversation later, Homer realizes he's headed for the same fate as Abe.
You know, we'll be old someday.
My God, you're right. You kids won't put me in a home like I did to my dad, would you?
Marge suggests setting a better example for Bart and Lisa, so Homer vows to make the next Sunday more exciting than a liquor store run.
Our third Sunday of every month should be a pleasure. Where's someplace fun we can take Grandpa next time?
Meanwhile, back at the retirement castle, Grandpa's day goes from bad to worse as his medications have been swapped for someone else's.
Hey! These aren't my pills!
But hey, fate works in mysterious ways, and the little mix-up at the pill counter introduces him to Beatrice Simmons, or B for short.
I get 2 red ones for my back spasms, and 2 of the bluest I've ever seen in my life.
Man's got more game at 80-something than most people. Myself included, am I right? This is supposed to be a sad video.
Tell me about yourself.
1 son, widower, 1 working kidney, and you?
Widowed, bad hip, and liver disorder.
You left something out. Ravishing.
Soon enough, Grandpa and B are inseparable. Long walks, shared medications, piano duets. Pretty much what you get from a Romeo-Juliet remake with a geriatric cast.
My sweet impossible.
That's the kind of love I want in my life. And Abe's finding it at the rarest time, too, making me tear up a little. But of course, we're talking about the Simpson family, so happy endings do not come easy. On B's birthday, Abe has got big plans. A gift, a celebration, maybe a dance that throws out his hip. But then Homer comes barging in for his mandatory once-a-month outing.
Dad, it's the 3rd Sunday of the month. Go away. Oh, come on, Dad. Promise we'll have more fun this time.
Grandpa insists that he can't go because of B's birthday, but Homer just assumes that, it's Grandpa. How important could it possibly be?
There's room for all your friends in the car. She's not invisible, you idiot. See, it's her birthday tonight. Yeah, right.
Homer dragging someone into misery? Shocking. So Abe gets dragged off the Discount Lion Safari, and if you're picturing something terrifying, tacky, and utterly dysfunctional, then you're spot on.
This is much better than my girlfriend's birthday party. Can we go now?
Their car gets stuck, hungry lions start circling like they're at a buffet, leaving the family trapped in the car overnight. By the time Abe makes it back to the retirement castle, an ambulance is pulling away, and you already know what's coming.
Got a date with an angel. I don't know how right you are, Abe.
Oh man, that's awful. Dude, that is awful. I know I just laughed, but I'm laughing away the plane. I'm laughing away the plane. Bye-bye, plane.
I can tell she really cared for me. Didn't make me a pallbearer.
We get to Bee's funeral, and Grandpa's sadness for once is not just played for laughs, with things escalating to the point of,
I'll never speak to you again. No, son.
you truly get the feeling that this wasn't just another girlfriend for Grandpa. This was a chance at love and happiness past the point of proposed no return. It's something he never thought he'd find again.
Oh, Bee.
So Grandpa returns to the retirement castle feeling bluer than a Navy SEAL, but then just when you think things couldn't get more depressing, the Yonel Hut shows up, only he isn't here to grift for once.
Mr. Simpson, Bee was a wealthy woman, and she left everything to you.
That's right, a huge inheritance with one simple condition. He can spend it however he wants. Grandpa tries everything from buying a Napoleon fez, as one does, to riding roller coasters, and I'll admit the sight of Grandpa clinging onto a roller coaster seat like his life depends on it always gets a laugh. But this time around, it's, I don't know, you can really feel the emptiness watching it in a packed theater.
I miss Bee.
I miss you too.
Either Grandpa's about to have an epiphany, or the dementia's kicking in. Bee's ghost suggests that Grandpa used the money to help others.
If you're not happy, spread it around. Other people as happy as you made me.
So inspired, Abe ends his beef with Homer, bummer, and invites all of Springfield to plead their cases for the money, which, of course, leads to the entire town lining up with outrageous sob stories, yes, even Mr. Burns.
Grandpa, I can call you Grandpa, can't I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I need that money, please, please!
Abe quickly realizes that there's not enough money to solve everyone's problems, so he tries to increase his money via gambling, but is stopped by Homer, who, for once, is the wisest person in the room.
Dad, please, you gotta quit while you're ahead. I have to get enough to help everybody.
Outside the casino, Abe has a quiet moment of clarity. Looking at his old, capable hands, he decides to use the money to renovate the retirement castle, making it finally feel like home. And he names the dining room in Bee's honor, turning his grief into something meaningful. Flawless ending. Now, Grandpa Simpson isn't the only one whose love life Homer has bulldozed.
Ooh, a bobby pin!
Oh yeah, we can't not talk about the Maude episode. In Alone Again Natra Diddly, Ned Flanders, our favorite Bible-thumping, organ-playing neighborino, loses his wife in a tragic accident, indirectly brought to you by Satan's greatest soldier, Homer J. Simpson. So the Simpsons take a trip to bird sanctuary, to bird country. They take a trip to a bird sanctuary because, hey, it's Springfield and there's always something wholesome to do before it all goes horribly wrong. As they hike through the sanctuary, they begin to hear bee sounds, but as it turns out, it's nothing more than the sound of racing cars on the brand new speedway.
Oh my God, it's a racetrack. They ruined it.
Oh, come on, Lisa, can it just for once, will you? Some of us like the little adrenaline in our system. I need it. Like Homer, who naturally ditches bird chirps in favor of roaring engines. And that's when things really start revving up, because to everyone's surprise, especially Homer's, the Flanders family is there as well.
Hi, diddly ho, pedal to the metalophiles.
Since when do you like anything cool?
Not because Ned enjoys the sound of race cars or the smell of burning rubber, but because, well, let's hear it from Safety Gear Stan himself.
I don't care for the speed. I can't get enough of that safety gear. Helmets, roll bars, caution flags.
It's official. Flanders is the guy who reads instruction manuals for fun. Maude, on the other hand, is there for the fresh air and to take a not-so-humble peek at the poor people in the infield.
I like the fresh air and looking at the poor people in the infield.
Stay classy, Maude. So the race begins, and after a few laps, along with Homer entering the race at one point, cheerleaders begin shooting free shirts into the crowd. Homer, in all his pot-bellied glory, decides he absolutely needs one of these things, so he takes off his own shirt, traumatizing the Flanders sitting behind him.
Nettie, I've had about all I can take of Homer Simpson's torso.
And starts jumping up and down like a caffeinated toddler.
I need a shirt! Give me a shirt!
Maude, needing a break from Homer's antics, heads off to grab some hot dogs. But as she's returning, Homer finally gets the cheerleaders' attention. They launch an entire barrage of t-shirts his way, and just as Homer's moment of victory arrives, he spots, wait for it, a bobby pin on the ground, leading to the infamous scene we saw earlier.
Ooh, a bobby pin!
Did we really have to play it a second time? So yeah, unfortunately, the force knocks Maude over the guardrail, and she falls several stories below. The crowd gasps, Ned rushes to the edge, and it's nothing but bad news. Even Dr. Hibbert dials down his usual sarcasm.
Oh my lord, she's dead!
Just like that, Maude Flanders is gone, and Ned's left as a lone parent of 2 with a heart full of grief. Ned, now a widower and single dad, is understandably lost, and leave it to Homer to try and help in the most Homer way possible by secretly making Ned a video dating tape.
This tape. Now, the audio needs some tweaking, and there's some footage of Maggie being born that I couldn't get rid of. Anyway, enjoy.
Because Homer is the director, the tape includes a close-up of Ned punching in his ATM pin, taking a shower, and somehow Marge giving birth to Maggie. Trust me, it's a long story. Ned at first is apprehensive about the whole thing, but after a very sad game of scramble against himself, he decides to mail the tape to a dating service. Shockingly, Ned does get a few days out of this fiasco, but they all crash and burn faster than Homer piloting a plane. From here, we get a front row seat to Ned's spiritual crisis. He's doubting his faith, questioning God, and even skipping church, which is like Kanye not making headlines. It just doesn't happen.
I'm not going to church today. And I may not go to church tomorrow.
But as you'd expect, Ned eventually folds and rushes to church while apologizing to God the whole way. Only he arrives just in time to hear something other than his usual organ.
Electric guitars in church. Gosh, the dropouts must have overpowered the reverend.
Never change, Ned, never change. Ned dashes inside ready to throw down, but what he meets inside actually makes him smile. Not only does he enjoy the music, but he also notices the band's lead singer, Rachel Jordan. After the service, Ned helps Rachel load equipment into her van, and the two strike up a conversation.
That was a lovely song. It really got to me.
Rachel suggests that they reconnect after her tour, leaving Ned with a spark of hope he very clearly needed. A spark that blossomed into something truly beautiful, only to be extinguished by tragedy once again.
Woo! Sure do miss that laugh.
I miss her too.
Yeah, Ned, us too. In The Man Who Grew Too Much, we finally got a confirmation of Edna Krabappel's passing, a quiet, emotional gut punch for longtime fans, and a second lost partner for Ned. Poor guy. The reason, of course, was tied to the real-life loss of Marsha Wallace, the incredible voice actor who brought Edna to life. Edna's love life was, shall we say, colorful. In fact, the most reoccurring theme about her character, besides her love life for cigarettes and her utter disinterest in most of her students, was her non-existent love life, or at least her struggle to maintain one.
Do you want to ignite my drink?
You're my kid's teacher.
Single parent, are we?
No.
Well, let's pretend you are.
That, my dear friends, is some Olympic-level gold medal thirst. And then there's that time she, let's just say, redefined getting involved with your students.
Come and get 'em.
Ay, caramba!
Bart, you're gonna need therapy for that one, and that's why this video was sponsored by BetterHelp. I'm kidding, it's not. I'm kidding. When she wasn't diddling schoolboys or luring single dads into awkward flirting, Edna was getting cheated on herself. Her first husband, emphasis on first, ran off with her marriage counselor. Sorry, not funny. Pretty much her entire love life was a chaotic, never-ending roller coaster of bad decision-making and worse outcomes. Seriously, her taste in men seemed to get worse and worse with every relationship.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Krabappel. You're very nice, but it's the children I love.
Bro, that's a whole other level of sus. And then there was the messiest situationship of them all. Her on again, off again, awkward romance with Principal Skinner, which, I mean, I was rooting for to fail. I don't know about y'all.
School dismissed.
Yep, zero chemistry, maximum cringe. But in Ned and Edna's blend, Edna flipped the script and did the unthinkable. She married Ned Flanders. If there was ever a sign that Edna's finally settling down, marrying Mr. Diddly Doodly would be it. From then on, she was referred to simply as Edna, so it's anyone's guess whether she took Ned's surname or kept hers or hyphenated the two. Either way, it's probably a mouthful for the church directory.
Oh boy, that laugh is infectious. Ha! Ha! It's fun.
So after years of bad breakups, awkward dates, and wildly inappropriate crushes, Bart, I'm looking at you, dap me up. Never mind, don't dap me up for that. Why'd we snap? Edna finally found someone who was genuinely in love with her and cared for her. Ned, of all people, managed to bring out her softer side, showing us that even someone as jaded as Edna could find someone to love. But as life often goes, things rarely unfold the way we imagine. In this case, it was the tragic passing of Marcia Wallace. We never witness Edna's final moments on screen, but we're shown the weight of her absence. At the end of The Man Who Grew Too Much, we see Ned reminiscing about a happy moment with Edna before we get a flashback of the two dancing together we saw earlier.
Woo! Sure do miss that laugh.
And right when you're struggling to hold back tears, Nelson, of all people, delivers the final gut punch, laughing through his own grief.
I miss her too.
It's a simple, small ending, but one that feels so right. Anyway, we shift gears from love and romance to something on the student-teacher side, and who better to lead us there than Lisa Simpson and her eternal muse, Lisa Bleeding Gums Murphy.
Little Lisa, it's good to see you again.
In Season 6's Round Springfield, Lisa shares one last jam session with her jazz idol, Bleeding Gums Murphy, before he punches his ticket to saxophone heaven. But first, the episode kicks off with Bart, breakfast, and food malpractice. While munching on a bowl of Crustios, because apparently Clown-endorsed cereal is a valid food group in Springfield, Bart chomps down on a rusty metal shard, because why wouldn't there be a sharp object in a kid's cereal box? I mean, it's a cereal made by a deranged clown, emphasis on deranged and clown. Bart immediately doubles over in pain, but naturally, no one takes him seriously.
Oh, my stomach. You just don't want to take that test. Oh, I mean it. It really hurts.
I mean, who would after years of fake injuries, fake tears, and fake everything? Boy who cried wolf. Even Marge assumes he's pulling a stunt to dodge a history test and ships him off to school.
Now get to school, boy.
See Bart crawling through the day like a dying soldier in the Battle of Gettysburg. His stomach's on fire, his classmates are indifferent, and Mrs. Krabappel, let's just say she's not sending flowers to his hospital bed anytime soon.
Look, if you ignore me and I die,
Read page 6 of the school charter.
no teacher shall be held accountable. Simpson dies.
Springfield Elementary, where the bylaws include loopholes for child mortality. That's America, I guess. Edna finally allows Bart to go to the school clinic, but it's a case of too little, almost too late.
My stomach really hurts.
I can give you these chewable Prozac, manic depressive mouths, bluebird of unhappiness.
Eventually, Bart collapses in front of Superintendent Chalmers, who probably regrets leaving his Not My Problem coffee mug at home that day.
Lieutenant Chalmers, I'd like you to meet our new school nurse, Lunch Lady Doris.
Seymour, why is that student lying unconscious on the floor?
Bart gets rushed to Springfield General Hospital, where Dr. Hibbert, springing into action with his signature bedside chuckle, delivers the least reassuring diagnosis ever.
Don't worry, son. You'll be fine.
That's like Zuckerberg saying your data's safe. Meanwhile, on the other side of the hospital, Lisa stumbles upon her jazz mentor, Bleeding Gums Murphy, who's looking suspiciously cheerful for a man with one foot in the grave. Their reunion is heartfelt, but not without some musical flexing.
Come on, let's jam.
Lift me above.
Murphy eventually lends Lisa his saxophone for her school recital. A big deal for Lisa, especially since the band has been reduced to her, Martin, and Ralph thanks to the great appendix epidemic that's ravaged the school.
Most of the orchestra is having their appendixes removed. I give you the remnants of the Springfield Elementary School Orchestra.
We all blame you, Krusty. Fast forward to the recital, and things start off pretty rough. Ralph's musical skills are about as strong as his grasp on reality.
With a flute up his nose, Ralph Wiggum.
But Lisa's solo saves the day. Unfortunately, her victory high doesn't last long because when she returns to the hospital, Bleeding Gums is gone.
What happened to Mr. Murphy?
He passed away.
Lisa is devastated, and her sadness only increases when she realizes she's the only one who attends Murphy's funeral.
Isn't anybody gonna show up?
Well, Lisa waited an hour.
Apart from Homer, who's more focused on finding a hot dog vendor than honoring the deceased.
I won't rest until I've gotten a hot dog.
This is a cemetery.
Get your hot dogs here. Woohoo!
And after watching Reverend Lovejoy butcher Murphy's name one too many times, like me in every single YouTube video,
Blood and guts, Murphy.
It was Bleeding Gums Murphy.
Lisa vows to make sure that everyone in Springfield remembers her mentor and his music.
And I won't rest until all of Springfield knows the name of Bleeding Gums Murphy.
I mean, it's Springfield. I wouldn't exactly have high hopes about that. Their combined IQ is probably like 43. For her master plan, Lisa targets getting Murphy's album played on the local jazz station, but first she needs to buy the record, which is now priced at $500 thanks to Comic Book Guy running his own version of late-stage capitalism.
$250, but I need that album to honor the memory of Bleeding Gums Murphy.
He's dead? Well, why didn't you say so?
Bart, fresh off his lawsuit win against Krusty O's, swoops in to save the day. He spends his entire settlement to buy the album for Lisa, a rare act of selflessness that leaves his sister in tears.
Look what I've got. Ta-da! Bart!
This is the one time I'm genuinely happy Bart made her cry. This is so sweet, dude.
When I said my stomach hurt, you were the only one who believed me. Oh, thank you.
You see, being empathetic does have its perks. With the album in hand, Lisa gets Murphy's music played on the local jazz station. Of course, Springfield being Springfield, the station signal barely reaches past the parking lot.
I did the best I could, Bleeding Gums.
Just when all hope seems lost, a bolt of lightning strikes the antenna, broadcasting Murphy's sax solo across the city. And as Murphy's music fills the air, Lisa looks up to see him in the clouds, saxophone in hand.
I don't want you to go.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Giving the world one final encore. Cheesy? Oh yeah, absolutely. But hey, if jazz ghosts can't manipulate the weather, what's even the point? And if you thought that was over the top, well, strap in, because we're heading straight into the grease-painted world of Krusty the Clown.
Wait, please, Dad, do you even think I'm funny?
Probably a no. In Clown of the Dumps, Krusty heads home, desperate for some fatherly validation, just in time to watch Rabbi Krustofski, his dad, keel over mid-conversation. To say that's traumatizing would be an understatement. The episode kicks off with Krusty doing what he does best, getting roasted like a marshmallow over a bonfire.
Hey, Krusty, our local deli just named a sandwich after you. It's called the Unfunny Comedian.
This time, his fellow comedians are the ones grilling him, and it's brutal.
You will always be remembered for your countless appearances on the Krusty the Clown Show, and your one appearance on To Catch a Predator.
We're talking jokes so savage they leave Krusty feeling less like the king of clowns and more like a sad balloon animal at the end of a kid's party.
Oh, nobody warned me this roast would treat me the same as every roast I've seen and laughed at.
Offended, heartbroken, and nursing a bruised ego the size of Jumbo Krusty Burger, our slightly disturbed, very disturbed clown decides to seek comfort from the one man who should have his back, his father, Rabbi Hyman Krustofski.
So basically, I came here so you could tell me the truth, that I'm great.
Krusty visits his father at the local synagogue, and in a rare display of vulnerability, he asks his dad the question that's been weighing on his grease-painted soul.
Dad, do you even think I'm funny?
To which his father responds,
If you want to know my honest opinion of you, you've always been,
And he never finishes his sentence.
Show me nose fog. Oh God, he's dead.
Yeah, dead as a doornail. And with that, Krusty's off to deliver a eulogy at the funeral that's equal parts touching and awkward because, well, he's a clown. You know, he'll turn it into a bit of stand-up.
Look, I'm an entertainer. Maybe the best way to say how I feel about my dad is through a song.
Yet no matter how many jokes he tries to tell, it all falls flat. Like, dude's confidence is pretty much in the gutter at this point. Which of course leads to an identity crisis, as he's still haunted by his father's final, Was it a good a great not so good? We'll stick around and find out, folks, after this ad break from BetterHelp. Or not, as Krusty never gets any closure on that question. Instead, he spends his time watching the Itchy and Scratchy cartoon he produced, only it hits a little too close to home. Like, remember your dad just passed close. And so he decides to do the one thing we all never dreamed was possible.
I don't deserve the pre-recorded applause of children long gone. Therefore, quitting the show. And I know Mel will be quitting it with me.
Yes, buy the house. It'll be... Oh, what?
That's right. Apparently, we've reached the moment the pity laughter died. Enter Bart, Krusty's biggest fan and self-appointed morale booster.
I'm gonna prove you did groundbreaking work. I want you to binge watch all the shows you've ever done.
Bart tries to cheer up his hero by showing him reruns of the Krusty the Clown Show. Unfortunately, this backfires spectacularly when Krusty realizes his jokes are painfully repetitive.
That's why all my cameramen have PTSD.
I mean, there's that. And the fact that, I don't know, you're a deranged clown with a drinking problem. And speaking of drinking problems, yeah, it's at this point the alcohol comes out in full swing.
Where's my whiskey funnel?
Yeah, so apparently that's a thing. So Krusty drinks himself straight to Sandman's shores, but just when things seem hopeless, Krusty gets a visit from his father.
You, my son, remain.
Or or at least a dream version of him. In a moment that's part Christmas Carol and part fever dream, Krusty's dad urges him to take a different approach.
Go back to Earth. Do something with your life. Help people. Help people. Help people.
Why does that sound so ominous? Inspired and luckily in his right senses, Krusty takes this divine intervention to heart and turns his old Krusty Burger slaughterhouse into an animal shelter.
In this new shelter, we provide a home for animals put out of work by Cirque du Soleil.
But then he quickly realizes that even after doing some good in the world, he still feels like he hasn't lived up to his father's expectations. At which point, Bart, Krusty's self-appointed hype man for the episode, swoops in once again to save our depressed clown.
Rabbi Rudenstein, your father's favorite.
He drags Krusty to the local synagogue, where Rabbi Rudenstein is reciting jokes that Krusty's father apparently loved. And surprise, surprise, they sound a lot like Krusty's.
So if Dad loved his jokes, Dad loved my jokes.
Or maybe he just hated your delivery. Kidding. Not the time. Hey, look, we're working with clowns here, okay? You already know Krusty's morals are questionable enough that he'd probably get a kick out of that joke anyway. Still riding the wave of morally questionable characters, our next tragic exit dives headfirst into Springfield's shady underbelly.
To heterosexual male friendship, a kind the Greeks wrote about.
In Donnie Fatso, Homer once again manages to do what he does best, ruin lives. This time, it's none other than Fat Tony who meets his untimely end. The episode starts with a classic Springfield morning. Hungover Homer and Marge are stumbling around like two zombies fresh from a duff-fueled apocalypse.
Happy New Year! Everyone, shush!
But Homer's headache isn't the worst thing coming his way. While begrudgingly taking out the trash, actual husband duties, Chief Wiggum and his posse of brain-dead deputies roll up to hit him with a flurry of fines for Springfield's most absurd infractions.
$50? It used to cover 2 public nudities and a poop in the park.
Yeah, let's not unpack why Homer knows the going rate for such activities. By the time Wiggum's done playing Springfield's worst prices right, Homer's racked up nearly $1,000 in fines.
The government runs out of money, pass a bunch of lame-o laws to sock it to the little guy.
Also a crime now, and that one's gonna cost him.
And since Homer's as broke as Moe's jukebox, he follows Moe's genius advice to bribe the court.
Homer, what you do, flip the guy $100, and your record is as clean as got nothing clean to compare it to.
I know, like a normal citizen of Springfield. Except Homer doesn't do normal. Instead, he swaggers into the courthouse with his bribe in a greasy brown lunch bag labeled bribe in giant letters.
You are under arrest for attempted bribery.
This is misunderstanding. Bride, wedding present.
How thoughtful.
Cuff him, Lou.
And in a plot twist nobody ever saw coming, Homer will be getting slapped with a 10-year prison sentence. Shoutouts to No Villains Are Safe. I almost said straight. No Villains Are Straight.
10 years. That is a long time to be away from your family.
But before Homer can even try and survive life behind bars, Wiggum pulls out a rare get-out-of-jail-free card by setting Homer up with an FBI agent who offers him a deal.
We're gonna plant you in Fat Tony's gang as an undercover informant.
Go undercover in prison and rat out Fat Tony in exchange for freedom.
What, this guy? Ooh.
In the immortal words of El Barto, ay caramba. So Homer, Springfield's least subtle human, somehow infiltrates the mob thanks to a cafeteria fight that the FBI orchestrates.
Blue pants power!
Ow! Nicky Blue, you're one tough yegg.
After saving one of Tony's men, the men bond and Tony even busts him out of prison. So now a free man, Fat Tony gives Homer a list of assignments, which he ends up completing by a mixture of divine intervention and the usual Captain Wacky mayhem.
It was either this or put in a ladies' room.
Case in point. In the end, Fat Tony welcomes Homer into the fold, and the two of them form a genuine, if slightly illegal, friendship.
Welcome to the family.
And it's safe to say that that was a fatal mistake, as during a weapons importing scheme, Fat Tony discovers Homer's undercover status, and the betrayal proves too much for him to handle.
I loved you, man.
He's dead.
No.
I mean, pointless deaths are a cartoon specialty, but dying over Homer Simpson? That's a new low. Surprisingly, Homer doesn't brush this off as his usual meh. No, he's straight up wrecked.
When I shut my eyes, all I see is Fat Tony drinks at that bar on the beach.
You never took me bar on the beach.
You wouldn't like it. It's not very good.
Considering what's probably buried there, maybe that's for the best, Marge. By the time Homer finally gets out of bed, he decides to visit Fat Tony's grave for a heartfelt apology.
give anything to bring you back.
But instead of closure, he gets kidnapped by Fit Tony, Fat Tony's cousin, and the new head of the syndicate. Yeah, it's a whole family of Tonys. Fit Tony plans to kill Homer for his betrayal.
There's no better exercise than killing and disemboweling a fat snitch.
But after hearing Homer's stories about the body shared with Fat Tony, he does indeed decide to spare his life. And so we get this gem of a revelation from Homer.
Wow, the killers have been kind. People who are supposed to protect me treated me like dirt. What kind of a world is this?
It's pretty screwed up.
I mean, kind of the world we live in. Eventually, Fit Tony takes over the entire operation, but stress gets the best of him, leading to an eating habit so bad that he morphs into, you guessed it, Fit Fat Tony. And before long, he eats so much he becomes indistinguishable from the original Fat Tony. The status quo works in mysterious ways, folks.
Pressures got to him. Soon he was known as Fat Tony for short.
The wonder of cartoons never ceases to amaze. Yet, it's not everyone in Springfield that gets to enjoy the carefree perks of being in a cartoon. For some, this town's bizarre logic is less of a blessing and more of a one-way ticket to an early grave.
I can be lazy too! Look at me! I'm a worthless employee, just like Homer Simpson!
This guy has absolutely lost the plot, thanks to getting involved in a Simpsons plot. And honestly, can you blame him? As we'll see, Homer's enemy is the story of his sad attempt at trying to survive in a world where logic took a sabbatical. The episode kicks off with a news report about the star of the episode, Frank Grimes.
Tonight's inspiring story is about Frank Grimes.
And his life story makes Oliver Twist look like a lucky kid at summer camp.
On his 18th birthday, he was blown up in a silo explosion.
Brother Kent! Someone give Kent a medal for being the best person on the face of the earth. Naturally, Mr. Burns sees the report and decides Grimes is the perfect executive vice president.
That's the kind of man I need on my team, Smithers.
But by the next morning, Burns has forgotten all about him and gives the role to a dog.
I've just seen the most heroic dog on television. He pulled a toddler from the path of a speeding car, then pushed a criminal in front of it. Find this dog. I want to make him my executive vice president.
Grimes, on the other hand, is shuffled into Sector 7G, a place where dreams go to die and bad decisions go to multiply.
That got it.
A man of effort and rationality has no place near any Springfieldian, and that's where he meets him. Him. As in Springfield's answer to Murphy's Law in human form. From the second Frank laid eyes upon Homer, he clocks him for exactly what he is. Lazy, incompetent, and by some miracle, still alive. So Homer being Homer is as infuriating as ever, whether he's almost chugging sulfuric acid because it looks like Duff, or Houdiniing his way out of workplace accountability. Homer's antics not only drive Frank crazy, but end up landing him in trouble with Mr. Burns.
Who did this to my wool?
He did.
You've got to hand it to Homer. He may be as sharp as a beach ball, but his survival instincts, top tier. It's at this point Grimes declares Homer his mortal enemy.
Hi, grimy old buddy.
I'm not your buddy, Simpson. I don't like you. In fact, I hate you. Stay the hell away from me, because from now on, we're enemies.
Dramatic? Sure. But what else do you do when the laws of reality don't apply to the walking disaster that is Homer Simpson? The only problem is, that's the equivalent of an NPC declaring war on the MC, who, frankly, has been coasting through life with some heavy plot armor. Homer initially tries to make peace with Grimes by inviting him over for dinner, a gesture that pretty much made matters worse. You see, Grimes walks into the Simpson household and finds the whole thing looking like a Norman Rockwell painting on acid. Lobster dinner, church clothes, a son who owns a factory. Long story. Actually, it's not a long story. Bart walked into a room and got a factory. That's essentially what it was. Anyway, the family members all seem to be shockingly well adjusted for people living with Homer. Add in Homer's random achievements, a Grammy winner, astronaut, Smashing Pumpkins roadie, and Grimes officially loses it.
You're what's wrong with America, Simpson. You coast through life, little as possible, and you leech rich off decent, hard-working people like me.
Note to self, when your dinner guest starts monologuing like Harvey Dent, it might be time for you to buy a shotgun. But Homer doesn't need a rescue plan because Grimes' self-destruction is already set in motion. His last-ditch attempt to expose Homer involves tricking him into entering a kids' design-your-own power plant contest where, unfortunately, it seems he forgot the memo that the show is named after the man he's trying to bring down. Homer submits a plant with fins and a racing stripe, and surprise, surprise, he gets first prize.
Can't stand it any longer. This whole plant is insane! Insane, I tell you! Ah! Ah!
That, my friends, is the sound of brain cells frying. Grimes immediately snaps and goes on a one-man rampage around the entire plant, mocking Homer's every move, eating like a slob, check, peeing on the toilet seat, double check, and finally grabbing a live high-voltage cable with his bare hands because he's Homer Simpson.
Well, I don't need safety gloves because I'm Homer Simpson.
And just like that, Springfield is down one Frank Grimes. It only took 21 minutes for a character to immediately deconstruct the logic of the series and sell himself into the hearts of fans around the world. Loosely quoting the M. Lemon video, Frank Grimes essentially turned the entire audience against Homer Simpson. Very impressive, but to then have him killed off in such dramatic fashion and then laughed at his funeral is, for lack of a better word, quite shocking. Well, those were 2 words. So maybe what Frank just needed was a little time in the penalty box. Or maybe a vacation. Cartoon worlds get pretty cruel. Check out this other video to see just how rough they get.